I want to give you kind of a roadmap of where we're headed. My buddy Jonathan Hutton from the Outkick 360 will be on with us breaking down all of the NFL draft. We will also have my other buddy, Jeff Schwartz, on in the second hour of the show breaking down all of the NFL draft as well. What do you think we're talking about today? All NFL draft throughout the entirety of the program because it is finally here and we are all excited to see what the overall impact of the draft might be. Also, in the third hour, the 5th annual Outkick listener draft. We will open up the phones. I will start the draft. We will have a couple of spots where we know we basically get like the free square on bingo. We know that Trevor Lawrence is going 1 overall. We know Zach Wilson is going 2 overall. I will then make the third pick. We will then go around the horn with everybody who works on the show being able to draft. And then we will open up the phone lines and we will allow you to make picks. Let me do the math here. I think picks 7 through 32. So I will have the first 2 picks that I think we're going to win. I will make pick 3. Danny G will make pick 4. Dub will make pick 5. We'll then have Eddie Garcia making pick 6. So be on your toes, gentlemen. And then in the 7th spot, we will have Roberto. All of those 1 through 7. And then we will have 8 through 32 being taken and made by the Outkick crew. And we will see whether, as a conglomerate, we can do a better job than most of the mock drafts that many of you have been looking at and paying attention to over the past several months. And with that in mind, I have done a mock draft on Monday, on Tuesday, and on Wednesday of this week on the show. And I now am going to give you my final top 10 mock draft for tonight's NFL draft to see exactly how all of this is going to go according to my last best estimates. Now, this is not going to be the official judged mock draft because I'm not doing all 32 picks. Just the top 10, the most discussed, the most valuable terrain, the most valuable land in the NFL draft, all right? And so we start right off the top. We know Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. We know that he's going to be paired with Urban Meyer. If anything, I think we're underrating how great of a story this is going to be and how interesting it is going to be to see what that relationship between Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer is going to be like. And I'm going to talk about this some tomorrow on the show because there are a lot of uncertainties now. But really, if you look at Urban Meyer, there have been coaches that go from the pros in college and back and forth, but only a handful of guys have ever won Super Bowls and have also won national championships in college. Jimmy Johnson was the first to do it. Miami wins the national championship, multiple, I think, wins multiple Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys. Then you have Barry Switzer, who wins a title with Oklahoma and then goes and wins a national championship with the Dallas Cowboys, a Super Bowl, sorry. And then Pete Carroll, SC, and the Seattle Seahawks. Can Urban Meyer become the fourth to do it? It is, I believe, a fascinating question to see how all of that could shake out going forward. I don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. But I do know that Urban Meyer is going to be in an intriguing position because he's getting to come in with the overall number 1 pick with a guy that, if you listen to the show earlier in the week, Trent Dilfer said Trevor Lawrence basically on his breakdown is just about as good as back in the day Andrew Luck was. And most scouts point to Andrew Luck and say he's as close to NFL quarterback sure thing as we have ever seen. Obviously, Andrew Luck's body took a brutal beating, and ultimately he decided he didn't want to continue with the Indianapolis Colts at a still relatively young age. But in the time that he played, he was an absolute revelation. He was an incredible player. The scouts were right about his ability. So, Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall to the Jags. Number 2 overall, Zach Wilson to the Jets. This has become a understood number 1 and number 2 pick. I think a lot of people out there somewhat surprised that Zach Wilson ended up such a clear-cut number 2, but those are basically 2 different free squares on the overall NFL draft board. In the third spot, I continue to look. I love to look at the odds makers out there, and I got to tell you right here and now that you get a free win in gambling too. If you go to FanDuel.com/Clay, Trevor Lawrence is going number 1 overall. You bet $5 on Trevor Lawrence going number 1 overall, you get $100 back. That's a 20-1 value. FanDuel.com/Clay. Get your bets in today. Your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your buddy who hasn't signed up yet, you can say, hey, you get $100 if you listen to my boy Clay. FanDuel.com/Clay. A $5 bet on Trevor Lawrence, who is going number 1 overall, pays back $100. All right, I'm going with Mac Jones. FanDuel has had Mac Jones as a favorite substantially for the last week or so. There's been a lot of movement in this line, but Mac Jones now around a minus 300 favorite to be the overall number 3 pick. I am going to ride with Mac Jones there. Kyle Pitts, news came out yesterday that basically the Falcons, couple of different ESPN reporters said, hey, they're going to stick with Kyle Pitts in Atlanta. He's now over a minus 200. Dub, I gave you this one a while back, said I like it. You dove in. We gave it out to listeners. Fingers crossed that somebody doesn't give a king's ransom for this number 4 overall pick. But I feel very good about these first 4 if you look at the numbers. And then 5, the Bengals, Jamar Chase has become a pretty big favorite to be the number 5 overall pick. So I feel like the first 5, I feel pretty confident in. Do you agree?
I do agree, and everything checks out in terms of logically, right? It makes sense for all the teams to take the players that you just mentioned. So I think the first 5, I'm feeling pretty good about those.
All right, so from the first 5, as we continue, I think the first real potential wrinkle in the equation here is I feel like somebody's going to trade up at this point because you've got the Lions, who nobody really has any idea what they're going to do. You know that the Dolphins don't want to go quarterback, and we're going to get to the Panthers trade and to the Broncos trade here in a minute, but there are quarterback-interested teams, and this may be a wild, outlandish idea, but right now I believe that the Dolphins are going to trade out of 6. I think the Steelers trade up, and I think they take Trey Lance. The more I think about this, Trey Lance is Ben Roethlisberger 2.0. Big, strong, tough kid, played in a lower level of competition, North Dakota State, lower level than Miami of Ohio, but both big, brawny Midwest kids who can handle Pittsburgh weather, big arms, can stand back there and take a hit, almost amoeba-like. I feel like Trey Lance could be Ben Roethlisberger 2.0. I think that the Steelers trade up to grab Trey Lance. Then the Lions, I think Dan Campbell feels like he needs some weapons for Jared Goff. They just let Kenny Golladay go and join the Giants. I like Swift at running back. I think that if you go get Jalen Waddle at wide receiver, he can be a difference maker for the Lions. I think the Lions go Jalen Waddle. In the 8 spot, the Panthers have now traded away Teddy Bridgewater. I think they traded away Teddy Bridgewater potentially to go get another quarterback to compete against Sam Darnold. I could be crazy here, and this could be an outlandish idea, but I'm going with Justin Fields to the Panthers, which then means that the Broncos do not have a quarterback available to them, which is why I think they went and got Teddy Bridgewater to compete with Drew Lock, and they need help. I think ultimately you got a defensive head coach in Vic Fangio. I think that he goes and gets J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, who is the first defensive player off the board at 9, and then that leaves the Cowboys needing to go grab Patrick Surtain. I think we know the Cowboys need help at corner, and I think that is the direction that Jerry Jones will go. That is my final personal Outkick top 10. How would you assess this top 10, Dub? Do you think there's any big swings and misses? What adjustments, what edits would you make if you had the ability to change things?
Well, I love your idea with the Steelers trading up to get Trey Lance. I think that works super well. I kind of compared Trey Lance to Cam Newton earlier in the week. I think the comparison to Ben Roethlisberger works as well. And I think, the kid is 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger can still play this year. He can still start all 17 games. Got to get used to that, by the way, 17 instead of 16. But yeah, that would be a fascinating move to say the least.
And look, if the Dolphins don't trade, then I think they stay there, and I think it's likely that they would go wide receiver. But this wide receiver depth outside of the first three seems pretty solid. They still have the overall 18th pick. They could make some more wheeling and dealing. I could see them making the move also to go grab Penei Sewell or Slater. But to me, if they trade back, they've still got 2 first-round picks, and I can see somebody like the Steelers falling in love with Trey Lance. And I also feel like the Broncos must be hearing some element of scuttlebutt, because if you thought you could stay at 9 and you were still going to have the ability to get Justin Fields or Trey Lance, I don't think you would be trading for Teddy Bridgewater at all.